Nigel, thanks for talking to Small Business Owner magazine. It's great to have you on the front cover of this issue.
My goodness, really?
I know.
That should depress sales.
Well, and I must say that because of you're famous for your shirts, and we might talk about that a little bit later. Not today, I have to say.
I'll let you down.
There's a nice little bit of trim, which is why I'm in a suit, to provide a little bit of contrast. And the fact that you're 6'3" as well, and I'm just 5'9", sitting down works. But for those people that don't know, in a nutshell, who's Nigel Botterill and why should we care?
Goodness me. Well, I'm a very proud British entrepreneur. And it's almost 10 years ago, almost to the day, Dave, since I set up my very first business. And in the last 10 years, I've been fortunate enough to build 8 separate £1 million plus businesses. So I've got to know a lot about what it takes to kind of grow businesses quickly. All grown here in the UK, all kind of built from scratch across different kind of sectors. But at heart, I am a very driven entrepreneur. That's me.
Great that you can sum yourself up like that. We have a regular contribution from Fabienne Fredrickson, and one of the things that she says is, of course, be known for one thing. It's less confusing if you've got a very narrow niche and you're known for one thing. You can sell into that market, and you've just already revealed that you've got 8 separate £1 million businesses. So how does that contrast for the being known for one thing?
Well, I think the one thing is what I've become reasonably proficient at is growing businesses quickly. So when we see ideas or we have opportunities or things are brought to us, if it ticks our boxes and meets our criteria, what we're able to do is get it to market, and sell it and get customers and develop and grow businesses. That's our one thing. What we're really good at is growing businesses quickly.
Now, that's an interesting point for people listening. That suggests there's a formula or a system involved. Is that something that's evolved over time? Could you reveal those secrets to that formula? Because I mean, growing one business would be great for most people, but 8?
Yeah. Well, okay, I think there is a formula. I don't want to oversimplify it, but there are certain characteristics and things that are key. And what I would say, just to be very clear here, I'm not claiming to have the Midas touch, because whilst there's £8 million businesses, there are also a few others that we launched that didn't kind of reach those kind of heights. So we've got it wrong on a few occasions as well, although we've learnt a lot from that and it's made us better. But for me, the single most important thing, and it is something that's overlooked, well, I say single, there's two things I'm going to start with really. The first thing, it might sound obvious, but we've been able to grow big businesses because there's been genuine, huge demand for what it is that we were selling. And it's much easier to sell a lot of stuff when lots of people want what you're selling. So going into a market where there is genuinely huge demand is the first kind of important bit. And if you haven't got that, then it's hard, or it's not impossible, before you even start. So that's the first thing. And the second, I think, part that before we get into this, is that we make sure that we do focus on the right things. And so many people in business, especially if it's an individual business owner, get stuck in the business, because every day we've all got lots of stuff to do. We're all really busy. There's all the day-to-day stuff to take care of, the staff to deal with, the customers, all the orders. And what I've been, I think, really quite proficient at, and my team as well, and it's because we learnt it from people much wiser than me in the early days, is that there is time every day when we are working purely on the things that will make our business better. So whether that is developing a new product or crafting a new piece of marketing or doing a bit of research to understand whether the market's there for what we're selling, but we find time every day to do the stuff that will make our business more successful. And I know that most business owners don't do that because they just work in the business every day. And that's a key piece if you're going to build businesses quickly.
And you've got a great phrase for this. You call it the Woodcutter Syndrome. Explain what you mean by that, because I've read this.
Well, okay. Well, it's a little, the Woodcutter Syndrome is I haven't got time to sharpen my axe because there's too much wood to cut. It's kind of Woodcutter Syndrome. And there are lots of people in business who don't take time out to learn new things and get better at what it will take to make their business more successful. So, I am a firm believer, the evidence supports it. At the end of the day, marketing your business is what will make you a success. Not, You know, it doesn't matter what you do. Clearly you have to be competent and capable and do a half-decent job. But at the end of the day, the people who have most success in any sector or industry are not the ones, broadly speaking, who are necessarily the best at what they do. They're the ones who have marketed themselves better. So if you have ambition, therefore, to be super successful in business, you're going to have to learn the stuff that that it will take to get you there, things like the marketing.
But there's a lot of resistance to marketing. It's almost a dirty word, and I think it's because there's a close association with advertising, which equals expense and little return. But I know from you that that doesn't have to be the case, but there is resistance in there. People say, I'm too busy, and marketing doesn't work, and the last time I tried it, it was rubbish, so I've given up.
Yeah, and because if you apply that to other walks of life, you think about the first time you got in a car when you learnt to drive. You know, and it wasn't easy for most of us that first time. You know, we stalled it and we kangaroo jumped down the road. You know, and just like marketing, when you do it for the first time, when you don't know what you're doing, you don't do it right. Now, how ridiculous to therefore decide that motor cars are useless, they don't work for me, I'm never going to drive again. Yet that is where people get to. Restaurant owners is a sector I've got to know quite a bit about over the last few years, and restaurant owners, I think, probably more than any other, personify that position that you just articulated, because they believe deep in their souls that what should determine the success of a restaurant, it should be the quality of food that they serve, the ambiance in which they serve it, provide it, and the service that customers get from the staff. It's about the food, the service, the atmosphere, and all those things are very important in a successful restaurant business. But this country and all around the world, wherever you go, every town is littered with restaurants that provided half-decent food and good service and a nice atmosphere, and they're now not trading anymore. And the reason is because the business owner didn't market his or her restaurant effectively enough. And they let customers come in. I mean, they let customers come in, they give them a great time, and at the end of the evening, they let these customers walk off into the night, and the restaurant owner is impotent in his ability to entice them back in again, because he's no idea where they live or what their phone number is or what their email address is, or he has no contact details at all. And that's basic kind of ABC marketing that isn't done in restaurants, but the principles apply across pretty much every other sector.
And you do say a lot, don't you, that it's your job, the business owner's job, to remind customers to do business with them and not the other way around.
Oh, absolutely right. I mean, that's why in any business, your database ought to be your single biggest asset, because it is your job to remind your customers to come back and see you again and spend some money. It's not their job to remember. I mean, how arrogant is it of a business owner to think that people, because everyone's busy, everyone's got things going on in their lives, they've got family and kids and they've got jobs and they've got stresses and things and you think in all that melee of their life they're meant to remember you. It's ridiculous beyond,
and I agree with you, but it takes a long time for the penny to drop. And then once the penny drops and you think, yeah, it is my job, I've now got, you mentioned taking phone numbers and addresses, but there's a plethora of things you can do to bring them back in, isn't there? I think people just think they've got to place an advert, but in the modern world,
of course,
there's loads of things that you can do cheaply.
Oh, well, absolutely right. And indeed, if you have a database, communicating with your existing customers is relatively cheap. I mean, it's pretty much free if you send them an email. You can send texts for just a couple of pence each if you have their mobile numbers, and even sending them things in the post. When we use direct mail a lot, and direct mail, the single biggest factor in making direct mail successful is who you are sending it to. So most of our direct mail goes to our existing customers because they know us. And when they get a piece of mail from us that's interesting and relevant and useful to them, the response that we get is tremendous, and it more than covers the costs. And it's much easier. The likelihood of someone that's already bought from you buying again is way higher than you going out there into your town and trying to attract someone new who's never heard of you, doesn't know what you do, and there's no confidence in you.
Yeah, and I get that, and I think a lot of people do, but I guess there's some industries that would say, well, why on earth would they want to hear from me? I'm a plumber, I'm an electrician, I'm someone who's just done some work for them. What on earth would I say to them in any kind of follow-up correspondence? What do you say to that?
Well, I think it's, most people in business are in it for the long term, genuinely. They want to build a long-term business. Now, if that is the case, you need to recognise that you're going to need to have long-term customers. So if they have to come back and spend money with you, time and time again. Now, the chances of that happening are dramatically increased if you keep in touch with them. And one of the easiest ways to keep in touch with your customers and help build long-term relationships is to provide and produce a regular printed newsletter. Way more powerful than an email newsletter. E-newsletters get deleted and not read, and they fill in boxes up, they clog them. But something that arrives in the post. Now, what you send them needs to be interesting. And part of your job as a business owner, if you want to have a long-term business and be successful, you need to appear interesting to your customers. Now, there's loads of ways you can do that. And you see the stuff that we do. When I have a little weekly TV channel online for our members of our Entrepreneur Circle, and we call it NBTV. And we've been doing it for 3 years now. Every week there's a little 3-minute episode. We call it bite-sized bits to help your business grow. Now, most of those episodes are me in strange or unusual places, because I have to make it my job to. So I was up on the roof here in my offices just a couple of weeks ago. We had having some work on the roof. What a great opportunity! So I had to deal with my fear, get up the ladder, and but it's a great little piece because Nigel on the roof, and I can weave that into a little message. I was on holiday, went across to Vegas last month with my wife and some friends. We hired a 50-year-old Cadillac for the day. What a great opportunity! There's a piece there, If I go to a Premier League football match, there's something there. I went to the Olympics. I did one in a restaurant a couple of weeks ago. I was a little bit tipsy, but that makes me interesting. They're light-hearted a little bit, but there's a serious kind of message there. But everybody's got that. Yeah. It's not difficult, and people are interested in people. And if I am an electrician or a plumber, I might as well be the most interesting electrician or plumber in town, because if I'm interested, people will talk about me, and then the phone will ring and business will come in. And me giving a bit of thought to become interesting will save me a fortune in advertising and other sorts of marketing. So it's a kind of state of mind, but you only get there if you've got the original goals really clear, which is about I want to build a long-term sustainable business for me and my family. Right, what do I need to do that?
Because you've shifted the focus from the business owner as the doer of the stuff, and they still might be the doer of the stuff, particularly in the early days.
Yes.
To the marketer.
Yeah, well, I'm still a doer in my business, just to be clear. But what I learned a long time ago is that if you're going to be successful in business, the first and most important switch you have to make is from thinking of yourself as just a doer to becoming a marketer of your thing. And you have to put some time aside every day to market what you do. That's how you'll bring the business in. Now, part of that marketing can be doing the things we talked about, even making yourself interesting, writing, whatever it may be. But unless you do that, if you get stuck in the business all the time doing the do, then impossible to take yourself and your business to a different place from where it is right now.
And I know, because I know you quite well, that you do that in the morning, but you're big on 90-minute chunks, aren't you?
Yes.
Just explain what that means to people. 90-minute chunks is important, regardless of the time of day.
Can I tell the story about how this came about? Because
Yeah,
when I started out in business on my own, I'd left a corporate career. So I was very ill-equipped, really, to be successful as an entrepreneur. All my skills and experience were working in large organisations. And there was an old gentleman who was retired, lived in the village where I was at the time, and he took a bit of an interest in me and my business. And he used to pop round every couple of weeks and have a little chat, and he'd share little nuggets of wisdom with me around what I should be doing. And I've been going about 6 months, and he came around one day and was sat in my lounge, and he asked me this question. And he said, Nigel, what's the most important thing you've got to do for your business to be successful? Which one of those horrible questions? Oh dear, I don't know.
I think I've got it here.
Well, I flipped and flopped around a bit on that day, but I settled it. I figure what I've got to do, I've got to get and keep enough customers. If I get and keep enough customers, Martin, I said, one way or the other, everything else will get taken care of. He said, Nigel, I think you're right. I thought, phew. So he said, so when are you getting and keeping customers today then? I said, sorry. He said, well, you've just told me that the single most important thing for the success of your business, which, by the way, Nigel, I know is the most important thing in your life right now, is getting and keeping customers. So given that you understand that, any sensible, sane person surely, therefore, would have some time set aside each day to do that most important thing. And I didn't. And I felt completely stupid. But he pointed it out in just the most powerful way. And so the very next day I resolved I was going to fix this. And I am a morning person. I'm always at my best in the morning. My energy levels are higher. My brain works better. I'm more productive at that time of day. So I come into my office now in the morning. I come in here. I'm usually about 7:30. And there's a sign on the door. In fact, you can't see it where the camera's set up, but I flick this sign out. It says, "Do not disturb unless building is on fire." And it just took one disciplinary for my staff to know that I'm serious about that. So I come in here, the phone is turned off, the door is locked, my computer is on, but my email is turned off, because the last thing I do before I go home at night is turn the email off, because I'm not going to get any distractions in my head first thing in the morning, because I'm going to come in at 7:30 and I'm going to work for 90 minutes on the stuff that's important to me. So when I'm at my best and most productive, I'm focused on the things that are most important, and that's how we build our business. We do our marketing, and everything that we built, all those 8 businesses, they've all been built in those 90-minute chunks. And it's a 90-minute chunk, and that's a purely kind of personal thing for me, because I find I can concentrate and stay in the zone for about 90 minutes. If I start to push it beyond 90 minutes, my concentration starts to go, I can't hard to get distracted, so I become less effective. So I focus on doing 90 minutes, so usually from about 7:30 to about 9 o'clock. And it means I can emerge at that point then in the day, and I can deal with whatever shit the day throws at me, because I've done the most important thing. And if you look back and analyse what we've done in our business, how we've built these different £1 million businesses, the truth is, Dave, they've all been built in 90-minute chunks. And that's why I think they're so important. And I just would commend it more than anything else to anyone in business who wants their business to be somewhere different to where it is today. 90-minute chunks is the key.
Every day.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I do it every day. For me, it's like a gym fix for me. I, as you can tell, I don't get many gym fixes, but I'm uneasy. I'm restless if I have not done my 90 minutes. So for me, I mean, there are the odd exception, but certainly across a month, if there's 22 working days in a month, on 20 of them, I will have done my 90 minutes. And if you do 20 90-minute chunks across a month, that's 30 hours of top quality, concentrated time and effort in the right space with uninterrupted. Oh my goodness, you can make amazing things happen in your business, and that's why they matter such a lot.
We've got some notes there which are about the pillars of what small business ownership is about, we believe, from the magazine:
Yes.
sales, marketing, health and fitness, leadership, management of self and others, technology, CPR, which we've written down, communication, personal presence, relationships. Now, you've mentioned the 90-minute chunk. That's one of your pillars of you as a person.
Yeah.
But I also know that you believe greatly in lifelong learning, don't you? That's another pillar of the Nigel Botterill empire, if you like.
Well, it is, and I would, and just to be clear, not because I kind of bought into any theory or anything around this, but I was just very aware on like my very first day in business on my own. I'd walked away from this kind of corporate career, I had all these people around me, and it was just me in my back bedroom. And I was acutely aware of my own inadequacy to kind of succeed as an entrepreneur. But I figured, and looking back, I think one of my biggest strengths was this self-awareness that actually I'm not very well equipped for this. So I better find out from people who've been there. I knew I wasn't the first person to do it. So I set out very early on to learn from people that had built successful businesses and study them and work out what they've done. And that turned into me going to a few conferences, and then I'd fly across to America, and then I'd join a mastermind group, and then I'd buy a product, and then and I spend a lot of time and a lot of money learning. And I thought for quite a long time that everybody did that. I really did not realise until really quite recently, a couple of years ago, it was pointed out to me that all this learning you do, Nige, it's actually quite unusual. And most business owners don't. I mean, they stay up to date with the developments in their particular trade or sector. If you're an accountant, you stay up to date with all of these tax law, whatever else it may be. But the kind of art or science of growing a business is something that they don't do anything with at all. And of course, this is in a time when what it takes to grow a business successfully has changed beyond all recognition. Because it has, in the last 10 years, the whole thing's been thrown up in the air.
And I know that you work very much with individual business owners. We know it can be quite isolating, it can be quite lonely, wherever you are in the world. Even if you've got employees, there must be times when, well, who do you go to talk to?
Well, you can't talk to your staff about, there's some things you can't talk to your staff about. Like your staff.
Well, like your staff, of course. But also in small business ownership, and that's the purpose of our magazine, is to talk to the owner of the business, not just about business. So let's just shift the emphasis a little bit. You may be considered a workaholic, I would think, but you surely put time...
Well, only by people that misunderstand me.
Well, maybe. But is there a health and fitness regime? Do you look after your relationships? You look in good shape, Nigel. You may mock yourself, but maybe you're breathing in.
I think I've been blessed with a fast metabolism, but yeah, okay, a few things there. I do work very hard, although it doesn't feel like work. I mean, I do genuinely every morning say a little prayer because every day is a holiday for me because I love what I do, and so there is no distinction for me between kind of work and not work. But I've really got 3 roles in life. That's how I see it. Okay, I have to be an effective CEO for my business. I have to be a good husband to Sue, and I have to be a great dad for my 4 children. And in the beginning, I tried to be good at all those 3 things at the same time, and I found it really, really difficult. And so I have a different approach now, and I've had it for several years. So my approach now is I try not to be bad at any one of those 3 things for too long. And so the way I deal with that, and I taught, I mean, Sue, my wife, just to be clear, is like the most supportive person any entrepreneur or business could ever have. And I can't imagine what it would be like trying to build a business if your partner was not completely behind you. It must be very impossible. I can't imagine what it would be like. So Sue's very supportive. And my kids have not really known anything else because I've been doing this for 10 years, so their memories are only me doing this. So what I do, we take a lot of holidays. So every school holiday, so every 7 or 8 weeks, we go away as a family, and to nice places, have nice holidays. And when I am on holiday, I don't do much work. I will keep in touch, but I'm not wired into my iPhone or my email or anything like that. I'm able to switch off, and that's when I focus very much on being a good dad and a great husband. And there are other times as well. It's not a complete black and white, but my holidays are a very important part. So 7 times a year I go away, and I do switch off. And not only do I switch off, I find I come back thinking more clearly. All the big decisions that I've taken in my business, most of them have been processed and made when I've been out of the day-to-day environment, because you just see things differently, and it gets my focus back, and so it helps in that regard. But I wrestle all the time with the juxtaposition, as I say, of family and children in particular. I will make commitments to things. They do come first. I try and do the important things. I'm there for the school plays and the football matches and that sort of thing, and I have good chats, and we have a pool at home, an indoor pool, so 2 or 3 nights a week I will take the kids swimming. So it's not like I don't work all the time, if that makes sense. There is a balance kind of in there. And
that's important, isn't it? And we try and get this message across that, the way you behave, that your branding, and I want to talk to you about that next, your health, your fitness, your mental fitness, it's all important. It's not just about sales and marketing.
No, I completely. Although I would never judge someone else's lifestyle. We all make our own choices and things, so I would never seek to kind of preach to anyone about that. But clearly, in business, if your business is going to be successful, it's got a much better chance if you are in a good place with other things in your life. And health is part of that, and I think Sue worries more about my health than I do. I'm getting to an age now where there's the grey is properly coming through, and things are all of a sudden I'm having to be a little bit more careful what I eat and this sort of thing, and so I'm a bit more aware perhaps than I have been earlier in life, and we have to take care of it. I don't get down the gym though very much.
You surprise me, and I think a few people say you're quite a lean man, but we'll talk about that as well, alongside the idea of personal branding. Now, we're blessed by having Leslie Everett.
Great, yes.
Personal branding coach, expert, truly at the top of her game, who contributes to the magazine. Now, I happen to know that you thought long and hard about your personal brand, as everybody should.
I'm not sure long and hard. I did think about it, definitely.
But talk us through that process and the thinking behind it.
When we launched the Entrepreneur Circle, that was the first time that I decided to put my name on my business. So the other business that we've done all had kind of names like The Best Of or My Mag, whatever else. But the Entrepreneur Circle, we called it Nigel Botterill's Entrepreneur Circle. And we did think carefully about that. And it definitely wasn't an ego thing. I mean, I have a bit of an ego like we all do, but it's not that big. It didn't need to be fueled in that way. But I figured that, given what we're going to do, because the Entrepreneur Circle, we set out to, our goal, our mission is to help UK business owners to escape mediocrity and live the life they want to lead. And they can do that by, in truth, just learning a few simple things and deploying them. It's not difficult. The reality is just most businesses don't learn those things, and so they are sat forever in kind of mediocrity. And I figured that if we're going to get this message across and engage with the people we want to engage with, I'd have to be interesting. We have to have something to hang it on, and it's just a lot easier if you've got a person with a story which stacks up, because we know a lot about this stuff, we're credible. It's easier as an individual, as Nigel, for me to have a view, to be opinionated, for me to do some kind of slightly silly things to get attention, which Branson has done magnificently well over the years, for instance, and it's just easier doing that as a person, as an individual, so than it is as a company name and a brand. So that's what we set out to kind of do. And then I started doing quite a lot of talks and speaking quite a bit, and so I figured, well, if I'm going to go on stage, I might as well look like I'm on stage. So I bought a few what people would describe as loud shirts. They're just bright colours, and I'm gutted that this morning, David. Forgive me, because I can't. I've turned up in my little white number, because normally if I was doing something like this, I would be in a bright cerise or a very vibrant turquoise. Or my current favourite is my lovely custard yellow shirt, which is great. And so I've become known a little bit in my circle for my shirts now. Which I don't mind that at all. It's not unhelpful in any way. In fact, the opposite is probably true. And in fact, it has led to a brand new business, because in a few weeks' time we're actually launching Botti shirts.
Incredible.
Which we've had our own range, which we've designed. It's been really great fun, and they're all going to be made to measure. So that's an interesting. We'll see what will happen with it. I hope that it will become my £9 million business. We'll have to wait and see. But it's kind of come, if you like, out of what you would, I think, call personal branding. Sure. Does that help answer that? Is that?
Yeah, it does, and I think because a lot of people think it's all about logo.
Yeah,
and you and I know that perhaps that's further down.
Yeah, I mean, your identity does matter, but I'm the last person to ask about logos, and actually, no one cares about your logo other than you. So
people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
That's the point. So
now, one of the things I did is a little bit of research, and had some readers' questions specifically for you. Now, this isn't going to be too painful, but I will go through them. So, what was the biggest jaw-dropping moment in your business life? Jaw-dropping.
Oh my goodness me. Jaw-dropping. I can think of a couple. I can think of a jaw-dropping good and a jaw-dropping bad. Which
that
one
might
do you want?
lead on, because there are a couple here that talk about highlights and regrets. So maybe let's wrap that up.
Oh goodness me! I mean, nothing beats, as a businessman, the feeling you get when you make loads of sales.
Yeah.
And there was something happened. It was a year after we'd launched the Best Of, and it was the World Cup going on of 2006. So I've been in business for myself about 3-4 years at this point, and we'd launched the Best Of as a franchise in the UK, and it grew massively in its first year, and it became the fastest growing UK franchise ever. And I had a friend who I'd been with just as we were launching, and he'd then gone to work overseas in Hong Kong, and I hadn't seen him for a year, and he came back during the summer of 2006, and the World Cup's on. So I have a big barbecue at my house for a lot of my friends to watch the match in the afternoon, and he turns up, we're having a little chat, and he said, "Oh, how's that Best Of thing going?" Because I just launched it a year ago, and so I tell him, he said, "Oh my God, that's amazing." I think about all the customers we got, all the franchisees, and all the growth, and we were just about to sponsor a thing on GMTV. That's an incredible story, and the penny dropped with me, and so I excused myself from the barbecue just for 10 minutes, and I nipped into my office at home, and I wrote a very short email, because I realised that there were loads of people who had inquired about the Best Of like a year ago when we launched it. And they would have no idea what had happened, just like my friend. So I wrote this email, I'm at this barbecue, told the story, my friend's just come back and said, "I didn't realise that we'd got this many franchisees and this many customers and this happened and that's happened," just like 6 bullet points. And I just thought, you might like to know as well. And that's all it was, because it's been an amazing year for us. Anyway, enjoy the match, come on England. And I pinged the email off on a Sunday afternoon. And that single email, which came from a chance conversation, generated over £250,000 of franchise sales in the following 3 weeks. And for me, that was jaw-dropping. And it was just a reminder of the importance of keeping in touch with your customers. It's the thing we talked about earlier on. It was a massive thing.
I'm a big audience advocate. That's what I would brand myself as.
Yes.
The guy that gets inside the customer's mind, the
Yes.
buyer's mind,
Yeah,
the past
yeah.
customer's mind,
Yes.
anybody's mind,
Yeah.
whoever your audience is. If I get inside their mind, you've done that.
Yeah.
You got inside the customer's mind and thought they might want to know about this. And subsequently, they thought that. Why did they make the inquiry? What do you think prompted them? Is it because it was successful, or is it just...
Oh, yeah. With the best of us a franchise. So now there are some people that are very attracted to like a business opportunity when it's brand new, when no one else is in there, and they get ahead of the game. But there are others who are like, oh, it looks great. Oh, yeah, we haven't started. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what happens. And they'll never be the early adopters. They'll come on, further down the line. And I'd just forgotten about them. And I was spending all my time generating new leads for new people. But I had a big bunch of people over here who had inquired a year ago, and didn't know. I'd not kept in touch. I was guilty. Oh, and this is 6 years ago, in my defence. I've learned a lot since then. We're better at it now. But I hadn't kept in touch. And
so that's a great tip, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was jaw-dropping because I could never have expected the response.
Yeah.
I just wrote a little story. It sat on a page. It wasn't a very long email.
Yeah.
And that's
but there's another key thing, isn't it, that I know that you think long and hard about. It comes across as very casual, but that personal story that you then tell in the email, hi, I'm at a barbecue, the football's just about to start, makes you more personable.
Stories are one of the most powerful ingredients in successful marketing. And if you just go out there to your customers or potential and just kind of puke all over them with, all your features and all your benefits, but you craft that same thing in a story, people remember it, it's more engaging, they're more likely to read to the end. It's just a hugely powerful thing. And that goes right back to kind of primeval days, when we were our ancestors, Dave, were gathered around the campfire, and that's how, and it's deep in our kind of psyche as human beings. Stories are great, and they are underused by most businesses.
Great tip. Okay, let's move on. I've no idea who sent this in, but tell us something about yourself that no one else knows. Now, it could have come from Sue for all I know, but something about yourself that no one else knows. No one else knows.
I don't think there's anything that no one else knows, but there might be one thing that only a few people know.
Okay.
I've got a new hobby, Dave.
Go on.
Would you like to know about my new hobby?
Yes.
I did something very, very impetuous, actually, just a few days ago. And it's very unlike me. I didn't even tell Sue what I was doing. It's quite a long story. But I've recently bought a beautiful old motor car that I am deeply in love with.
Is this a lifelong dream car?
Well, a little bit. I've always had a little bit of an itch to, I kind of like the old stuff. And the triggers that made it happen was almost quite bizarre, really. But I am the very proud owner of a 1968 P5B Rover. And it's beautiful, and it's been completely rebuilt, and it's the car that in the UK that prime ministers used to drive.
It's a stately
15
car.
years. Oh
it's
yeah, no, very much.
Car.
Sue it's fair to say Sue does not share my enthusiasm for this, for my new hobby.
Right.
But I have an almost unnatural love for my new motor car.
So do we expect to see you in a field somewhere with other Rover lovers and wearing a cap?
I have joined the Rover P5 Owners Club. Now, there's quite a long way from joining the club to going to the event. I think that may not happen yet, but you will see me out and about in Solihull, regally proceeding down the road in my leather-clad, oak veneered, kind of beautiful, kind of.
See, from this evidence of grey hair and worries about the future, and now
it's downhill, Dave, isn't it?
The car, we'll be able to work your age out somewhere along the line, won't we?
I'm not about my age. I was born in 1966.
There we are.
A great year for British football.
It was. I was 3 years before you, and the Beatles were #1 on my birthday. There we are. Claim to fame.
With what track?
From Me to You.
Oh, okay, because Day Tripper was #1 when I was born.
There we are. We've got something in common. Perfect.
It's like Smashy and Nicey.
Isn't it just? Let's rock. Our magazine is... We want people to read it, we want people to watch the videos and engage with us, and we're looking at ways to do that and engage with the contributors. We hope people will contact you and find out more about how you can help them and what you can do. But we want them to take action. It's all about action and implementation before the next issue arrives in 30 days' time.
Okay.
Now, we ask all of our contributors to come up with 3 things that could easily be done, and they may well pick something that you've already talked about, but there are 3 things that they could do now in the next 30 days that would move them and their business on a little bit further than they are now, what
Oh,
would those
okay.
3 botty things be?
Well, the top 2 are, I think, very obvious, and we have talked about both of them. And the first one is to start thinking of yourself as a marketer of what you do rather than as a doer, and find time to think about the marketing, because just doing that and thinking differently about your business will make a big difference. But if you follow that up with the second tip that I would give, which is these 90-minute chunks, because if you can create, it's just 4 or 5 a week, 90-minute chunks, and if you can fit them into your day, you'll be staggered at what will happen over across a 30-day period. And frankly, and if you can't fit the 90-minute chunks, and if your day is so busy and your schedule's so full, then I reckon you have only 2 choices at that point. You either reconcile yourself to life will never be any different from what it is right now, because it won't, or else you have to go without a bit of sleep. And you have to either get up earlier or go to bed later and do your 90-minute chunks then. But the 90-minute chunks will be, I think, my big piece. And if you can ally that with thinking about yourself as a marketer of your business, not a doer, then that will be a big thing. And I probably don't want to compromise those 2 by trying to think of a third, because
there's enough to do there,
I think
isn't
so,
there?
there is, and that's a big shift, and that would make a big difference if people did that. And it has made a big difference for so many of the business that we've worked with in the Entrepreneur Circle. It does work.
Brilliant. Nigel, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for talking
great.
to
Thanks,
Small
Dave.
Business Owner
Thanks for
magazine.
coming. Cheers.